Flight 441 was falling from the sky. 418 people were seconds away from death. 2 experienced pilots had given up hope. Then, a 12-year-old girl walked into the cockpit and said, "I know how to fix this." What happened next saved everyone. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The big Airbus A380 was flying through the dark night sky. It was 38,000 feet high above the ground. Inside this giant plane, 418 people were sleeping, reading books, or watching movies. Nobody knew that in the next few minutes, their lives would change forever. In the cockpit at the front of the plane, Captain Mike Reynolds and First Officer Sarah Chin were doing their job. They were flying the plane from Los Angeles to Sydney. It was a normal flight. They had done this many times before. The plane was working fine. Everything seemed okay. But then something went wrong. A small orange light started blinking on the dashboard. Captain Reynolds looked at it. He was not worried at first. His hand moved to check the numbers on the screen. "Hydraulic system 2 is showing a problem," he said calmly to Sarah. Sarah started checking the computer screens. She wanted to see what was wrong. But then another light started blinking. Then another one. And another one. In just 30 seconds, the calm cockpit became a place of fear. Alarms were ringing. Red lights were flashing everywhere. The pilots could not understand what was happening to their plane. "Hydraulic 1 is failing," Sarah shouted. Her voice was tight and scared. "Hydraulic 3 is losing power too. This cannot happen. 3 systems should not fail at the same time." Captain Reynolds knew this was serious. He picked up the radio and spoke to the flight attendants. "We are having problems with the plane. Tell everyone to get ready for emergency landing." His voice sounded calm, but inside he was very worried. Then the plane moved suddenly to the left. It rolled like a toy in a child's hands. Coffee cups fell everywhere in the cockpit. In the main cabin, 410 passengers screamed as their bodies hit the seat belts. People were crying. People were praying. Parents held their children tightly. The plane was falling from the sky, and nobody could stop it. "The controls are not working," Sarah shouted. She pulled the control stick as hard as she could, but nothing happened. The massive plane, which weighed more than 500 tons, kept rolling and falling. Captain Reynolds felt sweat on his face. He had trained for this, but he never thought it would really happen. Captain Reynolds picked up the speaker. He tried to keep his voice steady, but everyone on the plane could hear the fear in it. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. We are having some serious problems. We are going to land quickly. Flight attendants, please prepare for emergency landing." When the passengers heard this, they understood. They were in real danger. Real danger meant that the plane might crash. Real danger meant that many people might die. A young mother held her baby son against her chest. She was crying, but she kept singing to him softly. An old couple held hands across the aisle. They looked at each other peacefully, like they had lived a good life together. A businessman was typing goodbye messages on his phone. Everyone was saying goodbye. Everyone thought they were going to die. The plane kept falling. Captain Reynolds and First Officer Sarah tried everything they learned in their training. They tried to fix the hydraulic systems. They tried to use backup power. Nothing worked. The plane was falling faster and faster. The altimeter showed they were at 35,000 feet, then 30,000 feet. Every second, they were getting closer to the ground. The chief flight attendant was named Linda Martinez. She had 15 years of experience. She had been in small emergencies before, but nothing like this. She moved through the rows of seats. She looked at the scared faces of all the people. She knew that many of them might die. In seat 42F, a 12-year-old girl named Maya Rodriguez sat very still. While all the adults around her were crying and praying, Maya was listening. She was listening to the sounds of the airplane. She could hear the engines. She could hear the hydraulic systems. She could hear things that other people could not hear. And then she understood something. This was not just any emergency. This was the exact same emergency that her father had studied for 5 years. Her father was Captain David Rodriguez. He had died 2 years ago in a plane crash. Before he died, he had studied something called cascade convergence failure. This was a special kind of emergency that happened on very big planes like the A380. Maya's father believed that the A380 had a problem. The problem was that all the backup systems were connected to each other. When one system failed, it could make other systems fail too. It could create a circle of problems, like one domino knocking down another domino, which knocks down another domino. Maya had spent hundreds of hours studying her father's research. She had read his papers. She had watched videos of him explaining his ideas. She had used a flight simulator in her garage to practice what he had taught her. Her mother was worried that she spent too much time alone in the garage. But Maya's grandmother understood. She is staying connected to her father, the grandmother had said. She is honoring his memory. But now, sitting on this falling plane, Maya understood something else. She was not just honoring her father's memory. She actually understood his research. She understood it better than most adults. She recognized the pattern. The sounds of the plane. The way it was moving. The information the pilots had said on the speaker. It all matched exactly what her father had predicted would happen. Maya knew what to do. Maya unbuckled her seatbelt and stood up. A flight attendant named Jessica came to her immediately. "Honey, you need to sit down and keep your belt fastened," Jessica said. Her voice was trying to be kind, but her eyes showed fear. "I need to talk to the pilots," Maya said. Her voice was very calm. "I know what is wrong with the plane. I know how to fix it." Jessica felt sad for this little girl. She thought Maya was just scared and making things up. "Sweetheart, the pilots are doing everything they can. Sit down, please." But then Maya said something that made Jessica stop. "My father was Captain David Rodriguez. He studied emergency procedures on the A380 for 10 years before he died. I have studied his research. I know you are having hydraulic failure with electrical problems. I know the normal procedures will not work. And I know the special procedure that will save everyone." Jessica looked at Maya's eyes. Something in the girl's face was different. She was not scared. She was not making things up. She knew something important. "Please," Maya said. "We have maybe 5 minutes before it is too late. I can prove this to the pilots. My father spent 5 years developing these procedures. He tested them thousands of times in computer simulations. The aviation industry did not listen to him. But he was right. I can save all 418 people if you let me talk to the pilots." Jessica made a choice that would change everything. She took Maya's hand and led her toward the front of the plane. Other flight attendants tried to stop them, but Jessica kept going. She pushed through all the scared passengers toward the cockpit door. When they reached the cockpit door, Jessica knocked hard. She picked up the phone that connected to the pilots directly. "Captain, there is a young passenger here. She says she has important information about what is wrong with our plane. She says her father was Captain David Rodriguez." There was a quiet moment. Then Captain Reynolds' voice came back. He sounded shocked. "David Rodriguez? The researcher? The one who studied unconventional emergency procedures?" "Yes," Jessica said. "His daughter is here. She says she knows what is wrong with the plane and how to fix it." In the cockpit, Captain Reynolds and First Officer Sarah looked at each other. They were at 27,000 feet now. Falling at 3,000 feet per minute. They had maybe 8 minutes before they would be too low to fix anything. They had tried every single thing in their training. Nothing had worked. They had no more ideas. They had no hope. "Let her in," Captain Reynolds said finally. David Rodriguez was a brilliant man. "If his daughter knows something, we need to hear it. We have nothing to lose." The cockpit door opened. Maya stepped inside. Maya looked at the two pilots. She could see the fear in their faces. She could see that they knew they were failing. She could see that they thought everyone was going to die. "Talk fast," Captain Reynolds said. "We are at 27,000 feet and falling 3,000 feet every minute. Normal procedures are not working. Backup systems are not coming online. We have maybe 8 minutes." Maya moved forward and looked at all the screens and numbers. She saw exactly what she expected to see. The exact failure pattern her father had studied. The exact sequence of problems. "You are following the normal hydraulic failure procedure," Maya said. Her voice was steady even though her heart was beating very fast. "You are trying to fix the failed systems and switch to backups. But on the A380 with this exact failure, that makes things worse. The electrical system is failing because of your efforts to switch systems. You are creating feedback loops. That means one problem is making another problem bigger, which makes the first problem bigger again. It is a circle." First Officer Sarah looked at Maya with great surprise. "How does a 12-year-old girl know about feedback loops and electrical systems?" "My father spent 5 years studying this exact situation," Maya explained. "He proved in computer simulations that normal procedures fail with this type of failure on big aircraft. Every time you try to bring a backup system online, it creates an electrical spike. This spike makes the flight computers give wrong commands. These wrong commands make the hydraulic systems fail more. This makes the electrical system fail more. It is a circle of problems getting bigger." Captain Reynolds shook his head. "Then how do we fix it? We have tried everything in the manual." "You need to do something that is not in the manual," Maya said. "Something my father developed for this exact problem. You need to shut down all hydraulic pump switches at the same time. All of them. Then leave them off for 30 seconds. This lets the electrical system fix itself without all the hydraulic pumps demanding power. Then you bring the pumps back online in a special order. Not the normal order. A special order that stops the circle of problems from starting again." The cockpit became completely quiet except for the alarms. Sarah looked at the altimeter. They were at 25,000 feet. Falling at 3,000 feet every minute. In 30 seconds, they would fall another 1,500 feet. That was a lot of falling. If they shut down all the pumps, the plane would have zero control. They would have no way to steer or control the plane for 30 seconds. It seemed impossible. "That is insane," Sarah said. "If we shut down all the hydraulic pumps, we will have no control at all. The plane will be completely uncontrollable. We might not be able to recover." "You already do not have control," Maya pointed out. Her voice was calm and urgent at the same time. "The feedback loops mean your controls are not doing anything anyway. Right now, the plane is just falling. You need to reset everything. The 30 seconds of shutdown lets the electrical system fix itself. Then bringing the pumps back in the special order stops the bad circle from happening again." Captain Reynolds thought about his wife and 2 daughters at home. He thought about all 418 people on the plane. He thought about David Rodriguez, the brilliant researcher who had died before his work was recognized. He made a decision. "Tell me exactly what to do," he said to Maya. Maya moved to stand near the center console. This was what her father had trained her for, even though they did not know it at the time. "First Officer Sarah," Maya said, there is a red switch on your lower right panel. It is under a guard. Lift the guard and move the switch to override position. This will let us turn off all the pumps without the computer trying to turn them back on automatically. Sarah found the switch. She lifted the red guard. She moved the switch. Done, she said. Captain Reynolds, Maya continued, you need to turn off all 4 hydraulic pump switches at exactly the same time. If you turn them off one at a time, the electrical system will try to fix itself and make new problems. They must all turn off together. Use your left hand for pumps 1 and 2. Use your right hand for pumps 3 and 4. Ready? Captain Reynolds put his hands on the 4 switches. Every single thing he had learned in 25 years of flying told him this was wrong. Turning off all hydraulic pumps would kill everyone. But he had made his choice. He would trust Maya Rodriguez like he would trust her father. 3, 2, 1. Now, Maya said. Captain Reynolds turned off all 4 switches at exactly the same time. Instantly, every hydraulic pressure number on the screen went to 0. The control sticks in front of both pilots became completely soft and limp. They controlled nothing. The massive A380 was now just a 500-ton object falling through the sky. The pilots had no power at all. Jesus Christ, Sarah whispered. They were at 22,000 feet now. The plane was falling faster because without control surfaces, it was just falling straight down. Maya watched the clock on the instrument panel. Her father's research had said 30 seconds. She needed to count 30 seconds while her father's plane fell with no control at all. In the passenger cabin, people felt the change. The plane was falling even faster now. Even steeper. People who thought they had already reached maximum fear discovered they were wrong. The young mother was still singing to her baby. The elderly couple was holding each other with their eyes closed. Throughout the plane, 418 people were facing death. 10 seconds. 20,000 feet. The plane was falling at almost 4,000 feet every minute. The ground was getting closer in the darkness. 20 seconds. 17,000 feet. Some passengers had stopped screaming. They had moved beyond fear into a strange calmness. They had accepted death. 25 seconds. 15,000 feet. Maya kept watching the numbers on the electrical system. They were starting to become more stable. No more wild changes. The electrical system was fixing itself. 30 seconds. 13,000 feet. Now bring them back online, Maya said. Her voice cut through all the noise. But not in the normal order. First Officer Sarah, turn on pump 3 only. Sarah's hand moved to pump 3. She turned it on. The pump started spinning. It came online cleanly. No electrical spike. No feedback loop. The electrical system handled it smoothly. Pump 3 is online and stable, Sarah reported. Hope was in her voice for the first time since the emergency started. Wait 5 seconds, Maya reminded her. The electrical system needs time to adjust to this load before we add another pump. They waited. 5 seconds was like 5 minutes. But Maya knew her father's research was exact. 5 seconds was exactly how long the A380 electrical system needed. Now pump 1, Maya said. Sarah turned on pump 1. It came online smoothly. Clean. No problems. Pump 1 is online, Sarah said with amazement. We are getting hydraulic pressure. Captain Reynolds, wait 10 seconds, Maya instructed. Then turn on pump 4. Then wait 5 more seconds and turn on pump 2. They followed Maya's special order exactly. Pump 4 came online. Then pump 2. And slowly, one system at a time, all the hydraulic pressure came back. The electrical numbers became stable. The bad feedback loops were gone. Try the controls, Maya said quietly. Captain Reynolds pulled gently on his control stick. And the massive plane responded. For the first time in 10 minutes, the A380 began to level out. The terrifying fall became slower. The nose began to point upward. The plane stopped falling. The plane was flying again. It is working, Sarah breathed. The controls are responding. We have hydraulic pressure in all systems. We have control authority back. Captain Reynolds and First Officer Sarah worked together. Their hands moved across the controls. The massive plane came back under their control. The A380 leveled out at 10,000 feet. Not falling anymore. Flying straight and level. Captain Reynolds picked up the microphone to speak to all the passengers. His hand was shaking. But this time his voice had relief instead of fear. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. We have regained full control of the aircraft. The emergency is over. Everyone is going to be okay. The sound that came from the cabin was incredible. 418 people were crying. Laughing. Screaming with happiness. Embracing strangers. Thanking God. Thanking the universe. Thanking whatever they believed in. People who thought they would die in the next few minutes discovered they would live. Parents hugged their children. The young mother kissed her baby's head over and over. The elderly couple who had been holding hands across the aisle stood up and embraced. They were crying, but these were tears of joy, not fear. Captain Reynolds guided Flight 441 toward Denver International Airport. He declared a full emergency. Dozens of fire trucks and ambulances raced into position on the runway. Emergency workers prepared for the worst. But when Flight 441 touched down 40 minutes later, the landing was rough but safe. The massive plane rolled down the runway and stopped. Emergency crews surrounded the plane, expecting to find many people hurt or dead. Instead, they found 418 people who were shaken and crying, but alive. Every single person walked off the plane alive. The investigation began immediately. Officials wanted to understand how an aircraft with complete control failure somehow recovered. How everyone survived. When they heard the story, they did not believe it at first. A 12-year-old girl telling experienced pilots how to save the plane. It seemed impossible. But Captain Reynolds explained everything. The cascade failure. The feedback loops. How Maya had recognized the exact problem her father had studied. Aviation experts reviewed David Rodriguez's research. They ran their own simulations. And they discovered he was completely right. His research was brilliant. His procedures worked perfectly. The aviation industry had been wrong to dismiss him. 6 months later, the FAA announced new training for all pilots. They would now learn Captain David Rodriguez's procedures. Airlines around the world changed their training. The procedures that were once called too radical were now official recommendations. Maya became famous. Her face appeared on news programs all around the world. People called her a hero. But Maya did not want to be called a hero. I just remembered what my father taught me, she said in interviews. He is the real hero. He spent 5 years on this research. I just remembered it when we needed it most. But the passengers of Flight 441 did not agree. They knew that Maya had saved their lives. They sent her letters. They thanked her. They visited her. They showed her their families. They showed her babies that were born after Flight 441 because they survived. Maya finished high school. She went to college. She studied how to be a pilot. She earned her licenses. By the time she was 22 years old, she was a qualified pilot. By 27, she could fly the A380. She also became a researcher like her father. She studied aircraft safety. She published papers about emergency procedures. She worked with airlines and safety organizations to improve training. 15 years after Flight 441, Maya gave a speech at an international aviation safety conference in Geneva. She was 27 years old now. A captain on A380 planes. A published researcher. She told the audience about her father's research. She told them how the aviation industry had dismissed his work. She explained how Flight 441 proved that her father was right. My father spent 5 years developing procedures that could have saved Flight 441, she said to over 1,000 aviation professionals. But the industry said his ideas were too radical. They refused to listen. He died without seeing his work recognized. She paused and looked at the audience. But his work did save Flight 441. And now his work is saving aircraft all around the world. His legacy is alive. And it is saving lives every single day. 20 years after Flight 441, the survivors still gathered every year on the anniversary of the emergency. They celebrated that they were alive. They remembered how close they came to death. Robert Chen, who had been traveling to his daughter's wedding, spoke at one gathering. 20 years ago, I thought I would not see my daughter get married, he said with tears in his eyes. I thought my life would end on that plane. But because of Maya Rodriguez and her father's research, I got to walk my daughter down the aisle. I got to become a grandfather. I got to live 20 extra years. He looked at Maya. Every good thing I have experienced in these 20 years, I owe to you. Thank you for saving my life. Thank you for carrying your father's legacy forward. And Maya realized something important. Flight 441 was not just about saving 418 lives on one night. It was about understanding that research matters. It is about honoring people who think differently. It is about having the courage to do something dangerous when lives depend on it. Her father had died. But his work lived on. Through Maya, David Rodriguez's legacy continued saving lives every single day aboard massive aircraft flying safely through the skies, carrying